there's a lot of excitement to owning a new collection, okay? But not everything is going to be a smart purchase, a good situation. And there's a lot of times where you're going to actually have to walk away from a potential collection because of red flags. And I think we really need to get into some of these situations that you need to just cut yourself away from.
Yeah, sometimes you need to know when to walk away from a collection because it's very difficult, right? Isn't it kind of hard to walk away from a potential collection?
The potential in a collection can be huge. And then the information you get about what's in it and what's not in it can be misleading. So you can have this false excitement, or it could be even better than you expected. So there's that variable, that the unknown that people can really feed off of.
Yeah, it's like enticing to a degree, the process when you land the lead, which we'll get to in a little bit, but also when the process starts. But there's a lot of members in the comic book market right now out there hunting aggressively for collections with the hopes that they could find quantity, possibly find quantity in numbers, move things and buy things in lots so that they can sell and try to build their own collections. And they're on the hunt. And we're going to get to some fun collection stories here today, but I want to touch on right at the beginning, things to look out for and reasons based off of our experience of why we said no to a collection.
Like you referenced, a lot of people are trying to get books, and they're doing that right now, especially with what's happening in the world, more through platforms such as Instagram and Facebook and anywhere that you can connect with a larger group of people online. So that can automatically put up a potential fraud situation. So for me, one of the main things when doing that is that you have some type of financial recourse to protect yourself. And when you don't see that on the other end, like someone only accepts PayPal, friends and family, where you're not protected because you're literally just transferring money, or this person wants a wire transfer or a check sent to you and they're going to wait till it clears after 2 weeks. I mean, there's these situations where you just have to be really, really careful and know that if it's too good to be true and that's the boundaries that you're put in, then you should be okay to walk away, because if you don't walk away, you just gave away all your money.
That's right. Another thing that I've found myself having to deal with is collections that are too large. Sometimes an attractive and potentially profitable collection isn't the right timing for a particular individual. There's been times where I would have been able to take on a collection of books, but because of space, because of other collections I had recently purchased, I didn't have the room and I didn't have the resources to move as quickly as someone else. And I lost out on the books. And I've also, on the other end, put the money down thinking I don't want to risk out missing the comics. And then I overbought. I didn't get to the comics fast enough. And then in the long run, I end up wasting money.
Another one to be really wary about is the collection is overpriced. And sometimes that can be obvious, but sometimes it's hard because there's so many pieces and you just think, oh, there's this many pieces, I'll easily make my money back. But that's not always the case. So you really have to understand what you're getting into and that dollar amount and being able to move that material to recoup your funds. So being overpriced, it seems like a common sense one, but just it can sometimes almost trick you. So just be aware of that. And again, another reason to just walk away, because your money is still really important and you will still have that at least to put into at least another book or a collection.
You just said something that I want to double back to real quick. You said the words, it'll trick you. I find that fascinating because that's exactly the feeling it is. You will almost find yourself trying to convince yourself that this decision is the way you should go because of just the energy that got you to that point and how you feel in that moment.
Yeah, and these are major decisions you're going to make. I'm not going to, like I said, it's not easy because some of the biggest regrets are books I haven't bought or collections I didn't purchase. But I at least took that information and I made my best efforts to buy it. So if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But there are definitely times where I should have walked away for the amount of work. Now, I like to look at things optimistically. Usually I try to gain some knowledge from it so it hurts less, but this stuff happens and this is the things that you learn from. So try to take these experiences and learn from what we're saying instead of having to yourself, fully experience the financial loss and loss of time sometimes that you're going to gain from just these situations.
The next one on this list is something we've chatted about on this show multiple times. Even you've brought your own personal collection stories about comics being stolen. This is an aspect of buying collections. There's no way to be delicate about it. You got to know the red flags. You got to know when to walk, and you got to know what to do if you feel like you're dealing with something wrong.
Yeah, and this is probably one of the hardest ones to truly avoid because, if you don't really understand the situation and the tells of how a book may seem stolen, then that's going to be hard for you. But if you have that notion, it's just not worth it, because if it does get found out or caught, you're going to lose your money and you're going to lose the books. So, and you're going to also lose your credibility because people are going to assume that you bought stolen books. So certain ways to tell are just, sometimes you'll get a collection of comics. If the deal is so great and there's like sticker prices on the comics that add up to like $1,000 and the person wants $100, or, usually that means like, okay, these books might have come from maybe a store they were stolen from. There's just certain ways to kind of get, and vibes. Trust your gut. Okay, guys, that's the number one thing. Trust your gut, because usually it leads people in the right direction for things like this.
You've even brought stories about how your own books were stolen and how you've had to track them down. It's not an easy process and not something I would wish on my biggest enemy.
No, you're right. The community is small, so when something is missing, something gets posted usually, and someone finds out about it. So word gets around quick, and it might cross your path, and then you might be able to take that lead and connect somebody back to his books.
Something that I've experienced multiple times when buying collections, especially when I was really hunting hard, it was like, I don't know, it would happen maybe 20% of the time, where the excitement and the planning and the communication leads to the point where you're meeting the person who has the collection there. You have an expectation, you even have a price kind of in mind. And then worst case scenario happens, the deal changes.
Dude, I freaking hate this one.
This one's like, oh, man, I feel it on my skin. Like, ugh.
This is the worst because, sometimes the books will change. Like, they'll be removed, certain ones, and all of a sudden you're just like, dude, where's the book? Oh, I decided to pull that one, or they took enough time to where they've educated themselves enough and realized that there's more value to certain books, or they see a 9.8 on eBay and they just assume they're 4.5 is a 9.8 and it's the same value as that. So it's tough because you don't usually find that out until you arrive, so it's not like it's an over the phone. You've already made this emotional, not even connection, but it's emotional effort to get to the location. You're emotionally invested to buy these books already, and then boom, you're kicked in the gut and realize things just changed.
There's times when you're buying a collection and you're kind of like tallying it up in your brain, this book here, this book plus this book, there may be these others here, the price, not really feeling it, but you try to figure out the math. You look at how many books you're estimating. You're also looking at eras so that maybe you'll get lucky. Maybe something's not there. But if you get a couple wins, like you see a few keys, you see the picture and you see that 12 center right there, it's like, oh, that tells me there's some chance here. It's worth it, me trying to go out there. That one book not being in that collection matters now. And that should matter to you when you're there and getting that bad news just as much as it was when you found out that you were going to make that call and meet the person in the first place. If that book isn't there, don't just like let that go. That's going to now be a key part of that transaction, or should put you in a position to think, maybe I don't want this collection at all.
Yeah, it just leads to so many other conversations with the owner, and then now you have to renegotiate if they even want to renegotiate, and it's just a weird situation to be in, and probably the one on this list that's just the most uncomfortable and one I hate the most to deal with.
You got to know when to walk away, and sometimes that comic book is the reason why you're there in the first place. So you need to be empowered to know that transaction needs to be different, or that it's just not right now, because that one book may have made the difference in you making money or not. And we're going to get into this conversation actually today with the collection that you got this very week.
Yeah, I just picked one up yesterday. And so we'll go, like you said, a little deeper into that, and that'll cover some of these topics that that we just discussed. But another one that's important is the funds. Okay, like again, another one that you think's common sense, that you see this collection, but it's a stretch financially for you. Don't put yourself in this type of a burden if it's going to affect you different, like your lifestyle, your family structure. It's just not worth it. And it's okay to walk away because, like you said, you still have the money and there's always other collections out there. Don't just hurt yourself to get the books.
I've been burned on collections. You've been burned on collections. Heck, we know people who have been burned by just overbuying. In those moments of vulnerability that we're describing, it's easy to get caught up in, oh, we'll just add. We'll get more. It'll make the rest of the purchase easier if I add more to it. And the next thing you know, you're overextending. And I think it's all important that we discuss these types of things because you actually have a great example of a collection today that we can discuss.
Last thing on here, it's going to lead me to a question to you. Okay. Have you ever gotten a bad collection?
Yeah, dude. Just buying something you think was at least going to be worth it, and then you get home and you just feel like you made a big mistake. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, when you go through certain books in finer detail and you realize, oh, someone decided to trace the panels on this key book. Oh, I didn't count the pages to this book. Oh, I should have. Oh, the cover's detached. I mean, part of that is, you doing your due diligence on a collection, but sometimes things happen so fast. That's mostly the problem with this stuff. Things happen so fast and you put yourselves in situations where you feel the burden or the stress and have to commit almost, but just, you really don't.
You got to know when to be able to walk away. And you also have to be able to spot a bad collection, just comics that are overpriced. And it's a strange thing to just say because it seems like common sense. But when you're in the moment and you're in a time crunch and there's all these other factors that we're going to get into with some stories here, it makes sense that these mistakes happen to the best of us.
That's right. So if the collection is crap, it's okay to walk away. Okay, it's simple as that. Even though you put in that time emotionally to drive there and you get there and the guy promised you all these books are there and they're not, okay, or they're reprints. Oh my God, the reprint game when someone like tells you they have these books and you get there and they're all reprints. I've had that happen a lot.
Sure.
The collection's garbage. So it's garbage then and it'll be garbage if you buy it and take it home. It's still the same garbage. So just avoid it.
I want to hear from the community. Let me know about your collection stories. I know you got some weird ones. Everyone gets them. They start collecting them as you start this hobby.
Those are some of the best stories, the collection stories. You get to share those with your peers because everyone's got them, like you said, man.